The world is full of broken systems. I mean, we see it every single day, right?
Oh, absolutely. Everywhere you look.
Yeah, from education and healthcare, all the way to finance and just the modern workplace in general. You interact with systems that are, fundamentally filled with either crushing anxiety or just mind-numbing boredom.
Yeah, it's pretty bleak when you phrase it like that.
It is, but here's the thing for you listening at home, you actually have the tools to fix them. So, okay, let's unpack this. We have finally reached the series finale of our deep dive into the Game Beyond's masterclass materials.
It's been quite a journey, honestly.
It really has. Over the course of this deep dive, we've synthesized the work of Jesse Schell, those brilliant mechanical breakdowns from Extra Credits, and some truly profound design theory.
Right, and the mission for this finale is to take everything we've explored about the underlying architecture of games and, well, apply it directly to the real world. We are moving way beyond the concept of games as just, a disposable pastime. The goal here is a total paradigm shift. We're talking about moving from making fun to making change.
I love that framing, moving from making fun to making change. Because most people look at, say, a classroom or a tax form or a corporate hierarchy, and they just see the way things are.
Right, they see the static reality.
Yeah, and when they look at a game, they just see fun. But a true designer looks at all of these things and they kind of see the matrix.
Oh, the underlying circuitry.
Exactly. They see the exact wires where human energy is being routed, the feedback loops that are either functioning or, completely short-circuiting. It's just a system of rules waiting to be optimized.
But, and this is crucial, before you can rewire a broken real-world system, you really have to understand the foundational engine of human behavior. You have to move past that incredibly superficial label of just having fun.
Because fun isn't actually a mechanic, is it?
No, not at all. Fun is just the byproduct of fulfilled psychological needs. So if we look at self-determination theory, which underpins the most compelling design frameworks, we find 4 core rewards that drive intrinsic motivation.
And intrinsic motivation means you're doing it because you genuinely want to, right? Not just for a paycheck.
Right, exactly. The user takes action because the act itself satisfies a deep biological or psychological craving. They aren't just acting to avoid punishment or earn a bribe.
Okay, so what is the first of these 4 pillars?
The first one is mastery, or competence. It's the human brain's inherent drive to learn, adapt, and overcome friction. In a well-designed system, failure isn't punitive.
It's not a punishment.
Right. Failure is just high-quality data. It's
Yeah.
immediate, actionable feedback that tells your brain exactly how to adjust its strategy for the next attempt.
Like when you play a platformer. You miss a critical jump, the screen resets, and you instantly calculate that, oh, I need to delay my jump by half a second.
Exactly. And that friction is what makes the eventual success actually feel earned. Friction is totally non-negotiable for mastery.
That makes so much sense. What's the second reward?
The second is autonomy. This requires giving the user genuine agency. You have to design an environment where their choices actually alter the state of the world.
Instead of just like clicking a button to watch a cutscene play out.
Right. A lot of poorly designed systems offer a false manipulative choice where all paths lead to the exact same predetermined outcome. True autonomy lets the user own their specific strategy, even if it's totally unconventional.
Okay, so we have mastery and autonomy.
The third pillar is purpose. This connects a person's localized actions to a macro narrative. It's the why that justifies the effort you're putting in.
Like feeling that your work actually matters in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly. And the fourth is connection or relatedness. We are social primates, right? A system must facilitate fellowship, community, and meaningful interaction. It turns individual tasks into a shared cultural experience.
Mastery, autonomy, purpose, connection. Think of Minecraft for a second, because I feel like it perfectly illustrates the difference between just a simple sandbox and a system that actually utilizes these 4 rewards.
Oh, that's a great example.
Right. Because we all know creative mode is essentially just a digital toy box. You have infinite resources, you can fly, there's 0 friction.
It's a sandbox with interaction, but absolutely no constraints.
Exactly. And because of that, your motivation has to be entirely self-generated, which honestly causes psychological burnout for most people over a long period. But survival mode introduces rigid constraints, hunger, hostile mobs, scarce materials.
And by injecting those limitations, the system suddenly forces you to solve problems. Those constraints are the catalyst for meaningful play.
Yeah, because building a rudimentary dirt shelter in survival mode isn't just an aesthetic choice anymore.
Right. It directly satisfies the drive for mastery because you are actively outsmarting the hostile environment to survive the night. And it satisfies autonomy because you have total freedom over how you architect that survival.
And if you're on a server with friends, you get that connection piece by dividing the labor and, protecting each other.
Exactly. The rules and the conflict give the mundane actions incredible psychological weight. So for you listening, whether you are designing a SaaS platform, a high school curriculum, or a loyalty program.
If your architecture lacks these four pillars.
Yeah, if there is no genuine path to mastery, no real autonomy, an opaque purpose, and zero connection, the people inside that system will inevitably disengage.
They will totally quiet quit, they will drop out, or they will just delete the app because there is zero intrinsic real-world impact keeping them engaged.
And they will actively seek out other systems that do satisfy those psychological cravings. That's just human nature.
So let's push this into the near future because this is where the implications get massive. If these four rewards are powerful enough to keep millions of human beings voluntarily solving complex logistical puzzles on a screen for thousands of hours.
What happens when those exact same mechanics leak out into our physical reality?
Yes. What does that actually look like?
Well, Jesse Schell explores this inevitable collision in his concept of the gamepocalypse.
Gamepocalypse. Sounds intense.
It is. We are looking at a fast-approaching reality where cheap, ubiquitous sensors allow corporations and governments to gamify every single micro-interaction of your daily life.
So the barrier between the digital reward loop and the physical world just completely dissolves.
Entirely. The scenarios Schell maps out are pretty wild. He talks about waking up and brushing your teeth with a Wi-Fi connected toothbrush embedded with a motion sensor.
Wait, a Wi-Fi toothbrush?
Yeah, and if you brush for the dentist recommended 3 minutes, the brush pings the cloud and awards you points. If you maintain a perfect streak all week, you hit a multiplier.
Okay, but why would anyone build that?
The underlying corporate logic there is brilliant and terrifying. The toothpaste manufacturer knows that if you brush flawlessly every day, your consumption rate of toothpaste increases. They incentivize the behavior that directly drives their revenue.
Wow, okay, so they gamify brushing your teeth. What else?
It doesn't stop in the bathroom. You sit down for breakfast, and the cereal box has a cheap ink screen and a tilt sensor. You earn points for playing a balancing game while you chew.
That is absurd.
It gets crazier. Then you walk to the bus stop, right, and you earn social credit points from the municipality just for utilizing public transit. And during the commute, you open your phone to play a free puzzle game.
Let me guess, the game is tracking you too.
Yep, and it's heavily sponsored. It's Cocatris, essentially Tetris, but you are aligning branded soda cans.
Which is subtly priming your brain for a purchasing decision later that afternoon. That's so sneaky.
Ooh, it goes even deeper into your subconscious. Schell outlines a scenario where you are wearing a biometric sleep monitor. The sensor detects when you enter REM sleep and triggers an audio device that whispers specific cues.
Wait, are you serious? Whispering ads into your dreams?
Yes, actively influencing your dreams with product placement. When you wake up, an app prompts you to identify the brand that appeared in your dream. If you type in the correct soda brand, you are rewarded with a massive point payout.
That is, wow.
And later that day, the sensors in your digital shoes report your average walking speed and step count directly to your health insurance provider, automatically adjusting your premium discounts based on your physical output.
Okay, I have to throw a massive red flag up here. Framing this as a gamepocalypse almost sounds too playful. What you are describing is just a Huxleyan surveillance state.
You're not wrong.
Right. Like, we are taking the absolute purity of play, the architecture that drives genuine human connection and self-actualization, and we're perverting it into an omnipresent behavioral conditioning machine just to sell more toothpaste. It feels entirely dystopian.
That reaction is incredibly common and highly justified. The psychological danger lurking beneath this gamified reality is profound.
Because it messes with our actual motivations.
Exactly. Alfie Kohn's research, specifically his book Punished by Rewards, breaks down exactly why this approach is so destructive. Kohn demonstrates that if you take an activity a human being might naturally want to do,
like learning or exercising,
right, something they intrinsically value, if you introduce a transactional extrinsic reward system to that activity, you actively destroy their intrinsic motivation.
Because the brain's reward center shifts its focus entirely to the points.
Yes.
So, by paying me with a discount to brush my teeth, I literally stop caring about my dental hygiene. I only care about the metric, and if the points vanish, the behavior just vanishes with it.
The autonomy and mastery are completely stripped away, replaced by pure Skinner box behavioral conditioning.
Yeah.
You are reduced to a biological mechanism pressing a lever for a pellet.
That is so depressing.
But it's happening. The war for attention in the 21st century is actively utilizing these mechanics against you right now. Every airline loyalty program, every fitness ring that buzzes on your wrist.
Every algorithmic social media notification.
They are all deploying game design to hijack your dopamine baseline. You really have to cultivate a hyper-awareness of these systems so you can actively decide which feedback loops you are willing to participate in.
You have to recognize when your intrinsic desires are being overwritten by corporate metrics.
Exactly.
Which bridges us perfectly into the ethical imperative of design. Because if the gamification of reality possesses this level of psychological potency, then anyone who builds a system carries a monumental ethical burden.
They absolutely do.
And that includes you, the listener. Whether you are managing a logistics team, designing a user interface, or writing a syllabus, you are constructing the invisible walls that dictate human behavior.
Now, before we dive into these next examples from the extra credits case studies on propaganda games, let's be explicitly clear about something.
Yes, the disclaimer.
Right. We are looking at these examples strictly as mechanical systems. We aren't endorsing the politics, ideologies, or worldviews of any of these groups or games. We are simply reporting on the source material to dissect how their underlying architecture functions to influence behavior.
Exactly. We're just looking at the mechanics.
Right. The core insight here is that games and gamified systems wield a unique psychological power because they operate on the illusion of choice.
The illusion of choice.
Yes. When a user is inside a system, they feel like the author of their destiny. They chose to invest in that stock, they chose to answer the email, they chose to walk down that hallway.
But the designer constructed the maze, placed the cheese, and determined the width of the corridors.
The designer sets the physics of the universe. The user is simply optimizing their behavior based on the constraints the designer established.
So how does this play into propaganda?
Well, the case studies examine overt propaganda games. Like, there's a neo-Nazi recruitment tool called Zoog's Nightmare, which was engineered mechanically to stoke racial violence.
Yikes.
They also analyze America's Army, which is a highly polished tactical shooter explicitly developed and funded by the U.S. military.
Right, as a recruitment and public relations tool to impart specific military protocols and ideals to teenagers.
Exactly. But the vital takeaway from the analysis is that overt propaganda is rarely the most dangerous kind. When we encounter overt propaganda, our critical defenses immediately engage.
Because we recognize the manipulation, we know we are inside a commercial.
Right. The real insidious danger, and this applies to everything from software development to urban planning, is what the sources call lazy design.
Lazy design.
This happens when designers inadvertently indoctrinate their users because they fundamentally fail to analyze the behavioral implications of their own mechanics.
Okay, give me an example of that. What does lazy design look like?
Consider the structural default in the modern military shooter genre. For years, designers mechanically incentivize players to shoot a generic default enemy. Due to real-world geopolitical trends, those default enemy models were overwhelmingly depicted as specific ethnicities, often Middle Eastern or Muslim.
Right, and the development teams probably weren't sitting in a boardroom saying, let's foster racial animosity today.
Exactly. They were simply copying the tropes of the genre. But by making that specific demographic the default target and tying the player's core progression, dopamine hits, and mastery directly to the repetitive action of eliminating them.
The game mechanically trains a hostile worldview.
Yes. Similarly, in many traditional RPGs, the mathematical progression of a female character's defensive stats directly correlates with her armor becoming visually more revealing.
Oh, the chainmail bikini trope.
Exactly.
Huh.
The artist probably thought they were just adhering to a fantasy aesthetic. But the actual mechanics of the system communicate to the player's subconscious that the only way to achieve mathematical success and mastery is to treat certain demographics as disposable targets, or to treat certain characters as visual objects.
The system accidentally designs a terrible outcome through sheer negligence.
Right.
I mean, think about how this applies to something like standardized testing in the education system. The administrators do not want to mass-produce mindless drones incapable of critical thought.
Of course not.
But the mechanics of a standardized test implicitly design that exact outcome. The system only provides rewards and progression for rote memorization.
So what happened?
The students optimize their brains for memorization, and the teachers optimize their curriculum to match the test. The broader goal of actual education is completely destroyed by lazy mechanical design.
That is a perfect parallel. Your architecture dictates the outcome, regardless of your intentions. If you are building any structure that governs human interaction, you must relentlessly interrogate it.
You have to ask, what specific behavior is this feedback loop actually rewarding?
And who benefits when the user optimizes for this metric? If you lack deep intentionality, your lazy design will manipulate the people inside your system in ways that could be actively harmful.
But, and this is the incredible pivot in the masterclass, if we can navigate these ethical minefields, if we can harness the profound biology of the 4 rewards and pair it with intentional, rigorous systems thinking,
We can use these mechanics to solve the most intractable problems facing our species.
which is the ultimate realization of moving from making fun to making change.
Absolutely. The case study of Foldit is the perfect proof of concept here. For 15 years, the world's top biochemists and most advanced supercomputers were completely stumped by the molecular structure of a specific protein-cutting enzyme related to HIV.
15 years.
Yes. Supercomputers tackle this by using brute force algorithms, sequentially calculating millions of potential molecular folds. It is a wildly inefficient way to solve spatial problems.
So the researchers stopped acting like traditional scientists and started acting like game designers.
They did. They created Foldit, which visually translated the complex biochemical repulsions and attractions of amino acids into a 3D spatial puzzle game.
So it looked like, what, a highly advanced, malleable Tetris?
Kind of, yeah. And by doing that, they tapped into cognitive surplus. The human brain has evolved over millions of years to be the ultimate spatial pattern recognition engine.
Right, we can instantly visualize how 3D shapes interlock in ways that algorithms just struggle to process.
So the researchers released this puzzle to the gaming community, providing the constraints of the molecular physics and the goal of optimizing the shape.
And the gamers, driven entirely by the intrinsic rewards of mastery and connection as they competed and collaborated on the leaderboards, solved the 15-year HIV enzyme mystery in 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
That is just, it gives me chills, 3 weeks. By providing the right structural constraints and feedback loops, the designers channeled human play into a real-world medical breakthrough.
It's phenomenal. Another amazing application of this is Peacemaker.
Oh, the geopolitical simulation.
Right. This is a complex simulation of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict utilized in educational settings. Rather than passively absorbing a binary narrative from a textbook, students are placed directly inside the mechanics of the conflict.
So they actually have to play it.
Yes, they choose to play as either the Israeli prime minister or the Palestinian president.
And crucially, they have to inhabit the intense constraints of those specific leadership roles.
Exactly. They manage finite political capital, they have to respond to volatile public opinion, and they react to unforeseen events generated by the opposing faction.
So the simulation just forces them to abandon simplistic black and white thinking?
They experience firsthand that every single action triggers an equal and opposite reaction within the ecosystem. By interacting with the underlying circuitry of the conflict, they develop a profound, nuanced understanding of interconnected systems.
The power to shape behavior and solve problems at this scale is just staggering. And Jesse Schell looks at this landscape and categorizes the designers of the future into 4 distinct factions battling for the soul of gamification.
Right, the 4 factions. First, you have the persuaders.
And their only goal is to use these behavioral loops to extract your capital and attention.
Yes. Then you have the fulfillers. They simply want to grant your wishes and keep you pacified with exactly what you want.
Just a constant drip of dopamine.
Exactly. Third, you have the artists. They view the mechanics purely as a medium for self-expression and pushing aesthetic boundaries.
And finally, you have the humanitarians.
The humanitarians. These are the systems thinkers who want to deploy the architecture of play to genuinely elevate the human condition.
To actively inject mastery, autonomy, purpose, and connection into the broken structures of our daily lives. So how does someone ensure they are fighting for the humanitarians?
Well, choosing which faction you belong to requires deliberate, conscious effort. It requires the humility to realize that every metric you establish and every reward you offer is fundamentally a choice about how humans will behave.
Which brings us directly to you, the listener. You now understand the theoretical foundation. You know the biological necessity of the four rewards.
You see the catastrophic dangers of lazy design and extrinsic manipulation.
And you understand the miraculous potential of cognitive surplus when it's applied to real-world impact. But theory without execution is just trivia. It is time to stop consuming information and start actively creating.
You have to apply it.
You need the practical, rigorous application of these tools. So I strongly urge you to take this knowledge and get officially certified through the full program at school.thegamebeyond.com. Do not just sit on this perspective. Use it to rebuild the systems around you.
And as we conclude this journey, I want to leave you with a new angle to consider.
Yeah.
We've spent this entire time dissecting how human behavior is shaped by the feedback loops we design, right?
Right.
Well, in game design theory, we know that players will always optimize their behavior based on the rewards the system provides.
They follow the points.
Always. So if you find yourself unhappy, bored, or anxious in your daily life, consider this. Maybe you aren't broken. Maybe you are just perfectly optimizing your behavior for a poorly designed game.
Wow.
So what's the first rule you are going to rewrite tomorrow?
Do you want to learn more about game design? Try our game design course. Go from learning the basics to becoming a master game designer. No coding skills needed. Taught by award-winning game designer Gabe Mack, this course is filled with hours of videos, puzzles, tools, and exercises to turn you into a serious game designer. Why are you waiting to harness the power of play? Visit school.thegamebeyond.com to sign up today.